Not only are gaming monitors getting increasingly faster as time goes on, with displays in development capable of running up to 480 Hz coming out in the near future, gaming mice have also seen a bit of an upgrade in recent time with the arrival of the Razer Viper 8K Hz, a mouse literally named after the polling rate it's running at, which in this case happens to be 8 times higher than normal. So typical gaming mice, in fact every gaming mouse I have ever reviewed on my channel before this one, has been capable of running at a polling rate of 1000 Hz. Upping that number 8 times and sending 8 times the amount of data per second from the switches and the sensor to your PC, will that really be that much smoother than an already incredibly fast 1000 Hz polling rate? I've gone ahead and done a bunch of testing on the Viper 8K myself to try and determine whether or not more polling rate will really have an improvement in my aim, or is the claim from Razer about the whole micro-stuttering at 1000 Hz, is this really happening, or is this kind of like, just some fancy marketing to try and sell you on the whole 8000 Hz technology? Don't get me wrong, in theory this makes perfect sense when you think about it in terms of how many more times per second data is being sent from both the switches and the sensor to your PC, and their claims of micro-stuttering occurring at 1000 Hz. I would say in some scenarios, if you are moving your mouse at like 3000 miles an hour across your mouse mat, then perhaps you might experience some micro-stuttering. Running your mouse at a higher polling rate would alleviate this problem. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to polling rates or refresh rates of mice or gaming monitors is where the Hertz jumps matter most. So say for example, we're using a 60 Hz monitor and we finally save up enough money to pick up a high refresh rate monitor that is running at 165 Hz instead of 60. The image on screen is gonna look way smoother going from 60, which looks laggy, to 165. But upping this number further to, let's say, from 165 Hz to 360 Hz, once again, there will be an improvement in smoothness. It will just be less, because 165 is already pretty damn smooth. The same is kind of going on here. As we see, for the actual milliseconds you shave off, from 125 to 1000, you shave off 7 milliseconds of input lag. But going from 1000 Hz to 8000, we only shave off 0.875 milliseconds. Not even a full millisecond is shaved off in terms of input delay. So despite us sending 8 times more data per second to the PC, it's not as big of a jump, because 1000 Hz is already pretty damn quick. So that is legit kind of the improvement you can expect. And from the data I've gathered on this mouse, the jump wasn't big. The numbers that you're seeing on screen were put together over the span of 4 days, where I did a total of 25,000 kills in a CSGO workshop map called Aimbots, where I was stationary in one spot, shooting bots that are also stationary, trying to get 100 kills in the shortest amount of time possible with the least amount of bullets fired. Pretty much just trying to go for one-tap headshots with the AK-47 in this one test. I tested 3 different polling rates, as well as 7 different DPI settings, ranging from 100 DPI, which is awful to use, don't do it, to nearly 20,000 DPI, all whilst keeping my true sensitivity value, or eDPI, effective DPI value, the exact same, regardless of the actual DPI that I selected. It is solely DPI multiplied by game sensitivity, and that is your result for your true DPI value. And I would encourage you to experiment with very high DPI values as well as very low DPI values. I wouldn't go below 400 personally. You don't do it, it's bad. But honestly, it is worth experimenting to try and see what feels best to you, as the results that I got genuinely have left me kind of confused, and in my opinion require much further testing with much more data to get more of a solid average figure. And take some of the results that you see on screen here with a bit of a grain of salt, because I conducted these polling rate tests with the knowledge of what polling rate I was running at whilst doing the test. And my perception of these polling rates is more is better. And when I used 8000, I perceived myself to be able to perform better than 1000. Therefore, I might have actually performed better at 8000 Hz simply because I thought I could do better at 8000 versus 1000. So in the future, when I revisit this kind of testing, I will do this blindly without me having any knowledge of what polling rate I am playing at. So keep that in mind. You know, there's probably a bit of bias going on right here. But the results, in terms of percentage improvements from 125 Hz to 1000, saw about 1.6% improvement in my kills per minute in this case. And then it saw about a 1.1% improvement going from 1000 to 8000. However, polling rate isn't everything and probably shouldn't be the #1 feature you look for when choosing what mouse to buy. So the Viper 8K features an ambidextrous design, a lightweight design, for my standards at least, 71 grams, with a 20K Focus Plus Razer optical sensor, Razer SpeedFlex cable, 2nd gen optical mouse switches, 70 million click durability, faster than mechanical switches because there's no debounce delay, and the switches themselves run at 8000 Hz. Always changing the polling rate setting within Razer Synapse for this mouse has no impact on the polling rate of the switches. They're locked at 8000 Hz or 0.125 milliseconds. All right, when you adjust the polling rate on the Viper 8K, you are adjusting the polling rate of the sensor, not the switches. But perhaps one of the biggest factors that is going to improve your aim is the shape of the mouse and the ergonomics of it. Therefore, when choosing a mouse, one thing to really think about is what mouse you are currently using, whether or not you find that comfortable. Say for example, you are currently using a Viper Ultimate, a wireless mouse from Razer that can also be used in a wired mode. This mouse here is only capable of running it at 1000 Hz, and you are actually playing esports professionally using this Viper Ultimate. Upgrading to the Viper 8K, if you are already used to using a cable and everything on the Viper Ultimate normally and you don't use it wirelessly, this could be an actually good purchase. The Viper 8K probably costs less money than that Viper Ultimate, but might outperform it in terms of, you know, consistency and accuracy of your aim. You might actually get an improvement, albeit an improvement of like maybe 1% or less. Still an improvement nevertheless, especially at a very high level, could be the difference between you losing a match and maybe you winning. Once again, probably very, very small improvement, but an improvement nevertheless. However, if you are currently not using like an ambidextrous shaped mouse, the Viper Ultimate was just an example, and you much prefer something that is more ergonomically friendly, what I would recommend personally would be like the Basilisk V3. In my opinion, an incredibly ergonomically like well put together mouse. I personally really like the shape of it, and for a daily driver, this is my absolute go-to recommendation for anyone. It's just a really good mouse if you don't mind it being wired. Or if you want something less heavy, something like the DeathAdder V2 Pro or the DeathAdder V2X Hyperspeed could also be really good options. Once again, much better ergonomically designed mice, and they're not made for left-handed and right-handed people like the Viper. And simply because of the shape of these mice, even though they might not be running at 8000 Hz, the shape might be able to offset any 1% improvement you might get from the 8000 Hz polling rate, and you might be able to maybe get like a 2% improvement in your aim because the mouse shape that you're using is better and results in your aim being more consistent and more accurate because it just feels better when using the mouse. The mouse just fits in your hand a little bit better. I'm going to be revisiting this topic in the very near future, conducting further testing, because after doing this initial first couple runs and test scenarios with the Viper 8K, it got me interested to see whether I can perform better using a mouse that is differently shaped, but maybe not running at 8000 Hz. So I will be revisiting this topic in the very near future, and perhaps even comparing some of the other 8000 Hz polling rate mice that are differently shaped than this Viper Ultimate, than this Viper 8K right here, not the Viper Ultimate. Corsair, in fact, have options for these hyper polling 8000 Hz mice as well, and they even have a wireless one. It doesn't run at 8000 Hz though, it runs at 2000 Hz wirelessly though, which is still pretty damn cool if you ask me, and we know it's definitely possible. If Corsair have achieved 2000 Hz wirelessly, then we could probably see Razer in the near future probably doing a similar thing. I'm guessing probably sticking to 2000 Hz wirelessly. I don't know how hard it would be to send 8000 like bits of data per second from your mouse sensor and your mouse switches to your PC wirelessly. That might be a bit of a stretch, but who knows, maybe they can pull it off, and especially in a couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing wireless hyperpolling mice. You never know, things are just getting crazier and crazier. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you are interested in picking up the Viper 8K, or in fact any of the mice I have on the table right here, you can check out the links in the video description down below to see how much this Viper 8K costs. If you can pick it up for £40 or $40, this is an incredible deal. That is the lowest I've seen the price drop in the US and the UK at least. But prices may vary when you're watching this video, and they will be probably a little bit different country to country. So as always, you can check down below and find out what it costs where you live. But I want to end today's video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video soon where we're going to be talking about this IKEA Linmon desk and finally answering some of the questions that you guys have had from my previous video. Sorry I haven't posted in a little while, by the way, but nevertheless, I'll see you in another video in probably a day or two. Until then.